And
Wednesday of every month.
right,
Third
and
one.
right across the street is St. Peter's Church, and this is the altar inside. It's very beautiful.
Cemetery is great too. It
Yeah.
really is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Excuse me, can I ask one question?
sure.
Do you know anything about the association with that library you just named, that before the Smithsonian took over the American Indian Museum, they used to keep a lot of their materials right there?
Right,
I remember because I did some research and I had to go to that
right.
building.
Huntington?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was just wondering what happened when the Smithsonian took over it and how it was associated to that library.
Yeah.
I believe
Materials were taken up from the Cornell.
Cornell, yeah, went up to Cornell University.
Cornell University?
Yes.
In December 1700, Frederick Phillips, or Flipson as the Dutch would say it, drew up his will leaving the bridge, the island of Paparinum, and his land in Yonkers to his very young grandson who bore his own name. The bridge and its tolls became more valuable when the legislature in 1703 enacted a law to lay out and preserve a common public highway from New York City to Albany over the King's Bridge, named after King William III. This thoroughfare, eventually known as the Albany Post Road, guaranteed an increase in toll-paying traffic on the bridge. This was the only land connection between Manhattan and the rest of the world, which was Westchester County at the time. And although it's gone, it was originally situated, which is now the intersection of West 230th Street and Kingsbridge Avenue, not too far from the Target area of Spuyten Duyvil Creek. Spuyten Duyvil neighborhood. So Kingsbridge Avenue was named after the approach of the King's Bridge. And also, this is where Kingsbridge Road comes from as well. There was a question?
And there's still a bridge there.
Well, yeah, it's the 225th Street Bridge. So right over the Major Deegan, but not as old.
Question, question. Does that have anything to do with the old road that's in Bronx Park?
Well, the Kingsbridge Road did run along the southwest portion of what is now Bronx Park. So if you take 182nd Street, which is now part of the Bronx Zoo, that little bend, that was part of the old Kingsbridge Road. And that road connected the village of Westchester to Fordham, the village of Fordham, and later on to the King's Bridge as well.
You know the road I'm talking about that's parallel to the Bronx?
Yes, you're right, off of Southern Boulevard. Yeah, it's that little alley, and it's the old Kingsbridge Road. That was part of it as
I don't
well.
know down south that far, but
Right.
I
You're talking about the old Bronx River Parkway.
No, there's actually, off of Southern Boulevard, almost right across the street from the entrance, there's a little alley, and it's called Old Kingsbridge Road. And that's where it connected to what is now Fordham Road, and later on ran west. So it's now an alley, there's cars parked there, you would never know until you would see the street sign itself.
This is right in Bronx Park though.
I'm not
The
familiar with
baseball
that one.
field is,
Yeah.
goes over the tunnel going towards.
Burke Bridge, and you got Gun Hill Road kind of. Yeah, right, Gun Hill Road. That was the original Bronx River Parkway. There's a monument there that says that this was the southern terminus from
Where
1925.
they got the statue from the river.
The Bronx River Soldier.
North of Gun Hill.
Yeah, that's kind of,
Yeah.
Gun Hill.
So this is the Bronx in the 1750s, and it was pretty much acting like a normal city in England, made up of towns and manors. But it was also a time when the new generation of colonists began to feel the unfair tax practices of the English crown. For about a decade, the Delancey family, which dominated the colony's political life at this stage, was able to control the radical mobs of New York City, protesting British attempts to tax them directly. As a prominent New York family whose fortunes depended upon trade, their members and their supporters were sensitive to taxation and trade regulations that would restrict their profits. The provisions of the British Tea Act gave a tea trade monopoly to the politically connected East India Company, while levying a nominal colonial tea import tax on the colonies to help pay the debt caused by the French and Indian War. An uproar that spread throughout the American colonies that made the circumstances more dire. As matters developed, it became clear that armed conflict would actually ensue. So this is where we get Fordham, which is actually the town on the ford. Ham is sort of like an equivalent of home in Old English language. And we have Pelham here, the town of Westchester. And here's Morrisania, which is a name that we still know today after so many years. We know this house, right? Somebody asked me about Gun Hill Road, so listen up. One of the concerns of the Second Continental Congress when it met in Philadelphia was the defense of New York City. Following the battles of Lexington and Concord, the British Army was besieged in Boston by Americans, almost all from New England, but placed under the command of the Virginian George Washington. New York was likely to be the next British target. The Continental Congress ordered fortifications built on the high grounds around the King's Bridge to protect the upper Harlem River from possible attack. No immediate action was taken in 1775. Before the year was out, however, the British fleet appeared in Upper New York Bay and anchored at Staten Island. The appearance of this fleet alarmed the New York mobs at the time, and they were concerned that if the British attacked the city, the cannon in the fort at Battery, which is now Battery Park, would be captured, thus crippling the American military effort. To prevent that, they took the cannon and brought them over the King's Bridge. They deposited them in a line along a hill extending roughly from today's Jerome Avenue to Bronx River and across the stream to modern White Plains Road. On the night of January 17, 1776, someone or a group drove metal spikes into the touch holes of each cannon. Gunpowder in the cannon could not be lit, and the entire store of artillery was useless. Suspicion fell upon Isaac Valentine, who was the first inhabitant of this house across the street, who lived at the stone house as a blacksmith. The New York Committee of Safety sent a contingent to guard the cannon and to begin an investigation. On January 30th, 1776, Isaac Valentine's son, Isaac Jr., and his journeyman blacksmith, the English William Dickon, was sent under guard to New York. After the investigation, it was obvious that they were all innocent. The Committee of Safety then sent a small contingent of troops to guard the cannon in the field. The east bank of the Bronx River was transferred to the west bank for easier supervision. The process of removing the spikes from the cannon took 11 months to complete. While this operation took place, the hill upon which the cannon rested was named by the locals as Cannon Hill. Later on, very good. So, contrary to everyone's belief, a lot of people, there weren't any major battles that happened in this vicinity to name it Gun Hill. There were just minor skirmishes, but it was basically a nickname given by the locals. And this guy here, the Comte de Rochambeau, according to Lloyd Oltan, the official Bronx historian, slept in this house. And he referred to it as a wretched house on the hill.
I wonder why.
It wasn't in the best conditions as it is
Have
now.
steam heat or air conditioning.
Yeah, probably. Right. We know this place, right?